welcome to Fringe Review. This is the headquarters of Fringe Review here in Brighton, better known as the shed at the bottom of the garden. And this is one of a number of broadcasts, and this particular one is aimed at the people bringing a show to the Edinburgh Fringe, and it's about venue nightmares and successes. And you'll be watching this if you're particularly worried or excited about the fact that you've chosen to perform in a venue that is in one of the outlying parts of Edinburgh, an out of town venue. And you're 2 miles out of town, and that could have been because when you booked it, you know, the deal that was offered was cheaper, or it could be that you were led to believe it was more central from the PR that kind of claimed that it was in the heart of Edinburgh when actually it's down on the coast or somewhere out of town. You've got to realise that in Edinburgh there is a lot of hype that goes on. Not everyone even knows that they're doing it, but certainly in the venue terms, Glasgow is a small suburb just to the west of Princes Street. So I'm just going to offer in this little talk a few tips that I've picked up over the years from performers, from theatre makers, and from putting on a few shows myself over the years too. So you're either cursed or blessed or worried about the fact that your show is actually somewhere out of town, in a fringe where there are really just 2 main hubs. I mean, the big one in George Square and around Bristow Square is where a vast number of shows take place, and it's not far from where the underbelly is down on Cowgate, which you might think is another hub, a particular hub for the free fringe. And then in the new town around what was the it's called Assembly and the Spiegel tent, and all of that area is another kind of hub. And it turns out that your show is in neither of those places, and you're a bit worried about audience. So here's a few tips. Some it may feel like it's a bit too late, but hopefully you've still got time to do at least some of these if you're worried. So I've got my little list here on the iPhone, and I'm just going to kind of pull some of those out. Please do comment at the end of this video if you can, and add some of your own. The first one is an obvious one. Put a map on your flyers, and if you've already printed your flyers, then put a map on your website, put a map on your Facebook page, tweet a map link, and you can even embed a map if you can, or at least a link in your Twitter profile for your show. But basically maps that show how easy it is to get to your venue, and if people can't even imagine going there, they're not going to go. And if you make it hard for them, they're not going to go. But if you make it easy and then go, oh yeah, it's just up there, at least that makes it a bit easier. But a map that they can print off or just save as an image is always a great idea. So second one is encourage people to go to the venue not just to see your show, and particularly if your show's quite a way out of town but there are several shows there, then get clued up about what those other shows are. And it may well be that they're going to do a trip of it. They're going to go out there and not just see your show but 1 or 2 others, particularly if you've linked up with another show and made a special offer about joint ticketing. If you really are the only show out there, that's going to be a bit of a problem. But certainly if you're in a venue that's out of town and there's even just a handful of shows, how can you link up and how can you encourage people to go out there and see not just your show, but they're going to make a trip of it, and then it's going to be worth their while. Now, quite a lot of people choose outlying venues, and then what they don't realise unless they get clued up is that there are local communities. Certainly, for example, if you play down in Leith, there's a whole community around there. There are community notice boards, there are Facebook pages, and what you need to do is to get yourself a bit embedded into creating a local audience. Flyer locally, you can put up posters, of course, in local cafes as well as your venue, and some shops will be friendly, particularly if you offer them a free ticket, even local taxi drivers. But you know, make sure you hang out in the local pub, the cafes, find local community hubs, and then make sure that your show is on the radar of your own community. Just one point, if it's a comedy show, you might want to add in some locally relevant material as well, and that's always something people go away talking about. So find out what's going on locally. Here's another one, which is probably, I'm not asking you to go into spin, but actually people tend to over-exaggerate in Edinburgh how hard it is to get to places, and there's a danger that they'll just kind of lazily stay with the few that they know. So you do need to fight that battle a bit and make it sound easy to get to your venue. It's less than a £5 in a cab. There are 10 buses that go there. There are buses every 3 minutes. How long it's going to take and how easy it is to get to are a couple of the ways that you can just make it sound easier to get to your venue. Now, you're not just in that venue. I've mentioned that you're in your community, and Edinburgh is a rich historical city. You go down to the coast, there are things to see and things to do. In most of the suburbs, there's a museum nearby. There might be a famous shop or a bookshop, a pub that's also got some comedy on. So mention the virtues that are in or near your venue. We're right near the beach. The Blar Gallery is nearby. The venue's got a cafe with a great view. Something that's unique about your venue or something nearby. Again, a bit like people going to more than one show, so they might actually take a trip down to your part of town. So that's kind of a few tips really that are about being in the middle of nowhere. What you need to do is essentially just persuade people that Edinburgh is a city, that the Fringe covers the whole city, and that there are shows worth seeing, and you have been enlightened and creative and chosen a quirky venue that's a bit different, and you're going to share why it's a bit different. You're going to share what's nearby, and you're going to make it sound very easy to come and see your show. If you do all of those things, being in the middle of nowhere will suddenly make you feel like you're actually in the middle of somewhere.